here, Louisville has become a place where they come to do their the nature and the work of Catholic Charities, and they come here legally. And so with that, there is a real problem of getting them through the funnel of the migration process to become naturalized and legal immigrants. And so with this being brought to my attention, I reached out to Dean Jacobs and President Schatzel at the University of Louisville and asked them what they could do. And so with that, Dean Jacobs is here, and she has prepared a proposal, which I think is in the packets of everybody on the committee. So Dean Jacobs.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Senator McDaniel and all the members of the committee. It's really an honor to be here talking with you this morning. I know that you've had a chance to read the proposal. I certainly don't want to read it to you, but I wanted to just call out a few highlights if I may, and I promise to keep it brief. As you may know, I am a relatively new Kentuckian and Louisvillian. I have lived here in Kentucky about 19 months, a little more. So hopefully I'm saying Louisvillian right. I had not realized that Louisville has such a vibrant and significant immigrant and refugee population. But because of the work of Catholic Charities, because of the work of Kentucky Refugee Ministries, there is a very large population of Cuban immigrants, other Latinx immigrants. We see people from Ukraine and so forth who are coming to Louisville to be resettled. And Catholic Charities, Kentucky Refugee Ministries, Goodwill Industries, they all do a wonderful job to assist, but they don't have enough staffing to serve this ever-growing refugee population. And there are not enough private attorneys in Louisville to assist everyone who has need. And just as President Stivers said, of course, I am addressing my comments to people who have entered the United States legally and need assistance with work permits and their documents to be able to go to work, to join the workforce, pay taxes, and so forth. Not people who have entered in other ways, lawful entrance. So individuals still need work permits, employee authorization documents, and assistance oftentimes with the naturalization process. The University of Louisville Brandeis School of Law would like to help fill the gap in services and help more people obtain their necessary papers. By doing so, we support workforce development and help grow the tax base. We also help fulfill the University of Louisville's mission and commitment to community engagement. So you might ask, okay, well, why Brandeis Law? Well, I came to Brandeis Law because of the school's namesake and the fact that Justice Brandeis himself had a very deep commitment to service. He was known as the people's lawyer. And our clinical programs I see as an extension of his legacy, of that service to the community. So you may or may not know that we already have several law clinics. We have both litigation clinics, one that is devoted to assisting domestic violence survivors and helping them get protective orders and corresponding custody and visitation orders and so forth. We have a second litigation clinic that assists with eviction defense, and we have some other transactional clinics. So this is definitely within our wheelhouse. We know how to put the infrastructure together to have a clinic. Law clinics provide students with real-world experience so that they are better prepared to practice law after graduation, and of course provide a great benefit to the community because law clinics do not charge the clients. So the clients receive free legal services, the community benefits by having more people available to provide services, and the law students benefit because they're getting real experience with clients.
Dean, may I interrupt you for a second? Help me understand what constitutes legal immigration for a Cuban, because certainly they are on a different path than most other nations. Is this kind of the concept that regardless of how a Cuban immigrant arrives in the United States, once they touch down in once they hit United States soil, they are legally immigrated at that point? Is that accurate?
So Senator, I am not an immigration law specialist, and I don't want to give you inaccurate information. What I can tell you is that federal legislation does provide for the legal parole, so not parole post criminal, but the legal parole of various immigrants who come here to the United States. And there is both the legislation to which President Stivers referred earlier in 1966, but there are the Cuban Family Reunification Parole Program from 2007 establishes lawful presence, and it has been expanded since.
But an immigrant from Cuba who is here legally is not automatically authorized to work. It is the process of getting them authorized to work that your clinic intends to engage in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So someone is here, that's the idea, that someone has entered the United States legally as a result of this legislation, but they don't have the requisite papers, that employee authorization document, to be able to work.
Good. Yeah, we on my private side, we deal with a lot of immigrant folks, and we had some Cubans for our first time this last year, and it was a very different experience than other immigrants who have come to work for us before. And so not all immigration lawyers understand how to deal with Cubans because of the nature of their legal status. So it is a very unique situation that they find themselves in. Good. Senator Boswell.
Thank you. So federal laws created this situation. Are there federal funds available for a project like this? Do you know?
I am not certain of all of the various federal grant funding that might be available for a project like this.
Okay. One other question, if I may. So I noticed here in the paper that roughly 15,000 immigrants arrived in Louisville in the year of 2022. Do you expect that to continue at a kind of even flow? Do you expect that to increase? Or can you give us some ideas about where we expect to go from here as far as the numbers of people?
I would defer to my colleagues who have better information about that.
Yeah, I can drop a slide of our trend in arrivals here through Catholic Charities. These are Cuban arrivals over the past. So yes, we expect it to continue. I mean, and I'm sure Luis can explain the situation in Cuba that is, prompting people to leave Cuba. But what we're seeing at Catholic Charities is that we're going to continue to see people arrive at the same rates. And we are also seeing in this slide here, I just wanted to point this out, we're seeing a lot of people that are eligible to apply for a work authorization. So as the arrivals increase, the people that are eligible to get those employment authorization is also increasing.
So you're expecting then that number will increase from 15,000?
I think it would stay. Well, yes, I mean the number of people, but the rate would stay the same.
Let me interject because I think his presentation covers this further down the line. So
Yes.
let's let him get through that. Colin, why don't you go ahead and go through your slides here? I think you're going to answer some of the questions where Senator Boswell is headed here.
Yeah, so just touching back on arrival trends and a little bit of historical context, I think that was already touched on, is that Catholic Charities started in the early 2000s, late 90s with a Cuban entrant program which resettled Cubans directly from Cuba to Louisville and welcomed families. And so as people are coming through these new programs, they're arriving in Louisville with the need for legal representation. Throughout the past year, we've seen, as you pointed out, an increase in arrivals, and those arrivals it has coincided with the people that are arriving are eligible to get that employment authorization document. However, as the dean mentioned, there are not enough practitioners of law to help people get those employment authorization documents. And just this last slide here, as we see immigrants coming, the amount of people without legal immigrants without legal representation has grown. So it presents this need in our community.
Senator Boswell, did he cover where you were headed?
Just one last question. So when you get 15,000 people, and that's a significant amount of people. So and if they don't have work permits or all that, what what is their status currently for the ones who haven't received the work permits? So where are they, and what is their status?
Yeah, I mean, they still hold, the majority of them hold that parole until they can adjust their status after they've been here a year. So they have that legal status here in the United States. However, they're relying on their family for support. So it's so important to have people get their employment authorization document, which will be, it takes a long time, and it's almost impossible to do it by oneself without legal representation. So the sooner that somebody gets an employment authorization, the sooner they're on their feet and working.
All right, Colin, thanks. Luis?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm sorry my bad English. Please bear with me. Just for general information, in Kentucky, we are around 55,000 Cubans. We all are legal. Bunch of people, I would say, around 10,000 of them, they are under a legal immigration process. They have a form I-220A, which is a form that they are under deportation status. So I want to add that the Cuban community is a plus for Kentucky. It's a very driving community, very entrepreneurial community. You just go and see around how many Cuban restaurants, grocery stores, realtors, and the Jefferson community, the Jefferson County Public School, that is around 500 Cubans teaching, most of them teachers. And everywhere that you see, there is a huge Cuban, population there. So again, we are here trying to get some help from you. As they said before, they arrive here without anything, no resource, no money, and it's very hard to to pay a lawyer or to start, getting all the papers. So again, we are just trying to help them through you. So I appreciate if you do something for them.
Luis, pronounce the name of your publication for me again.
The name is Il Kentubano, a combination of Kentucky and Cubano. Il Kentubano.
If you haven't seen it, you ought to check it out, even if you don't read Spanish. With my broken, I could fumble through the one that Luis was kind enough to give me about a year ago. It was very good. So, Senator Funky Frommer.
I'm a little ignorant to the process of getting the work permit and the length of time. You had suggested that it is quite lengthy. Can you talk us through just a little bit about what that we've arrived from Cuba, and what's the first phase, and how do you even identify work? But what's the process?
Well, to apply for a work permit, once somebody comes under a certain status, they can apply immediately for their work permit. It's taking, it has taken from any amount of time from 3 months, 6 weeks to 6 months. So it depends on if you have legal representation. What Catholic Charities does, and Kentucky Refugee Ministries, while they're waiting for their employment authorization, they are going to English language classes and then enrolled in employment services. So once somebody has their work authorization document, we're getting them jobs and helping them access employment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. I don't see any more questions from the committee. Dean, do you have any final words for us?
So I just wanted to thank you again. From a process standpoint, yes, it's our understanding, as Colin was explaining, that it can take months. So our idea is that we would have a supervising clinical attorney who would be working with students who could help. Our student attorneys would be able to help individuals complete all of these documents. Is it necessarily going to fill every gap? No, but we are going to be able to expand legal services as a result of having the clinic. To me, the other important thing is to train the next generation of immigration law attorneys so that we would have more immigration law attorneys to assist with this.
Senator Nemes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it's taking time out of our other meetings we're having, but this is very important because we need workforce development. We need legal immigrants, and this is a way for people to come here legally and help our Kentucky businesses survive. Thank you very much.
And then I'm going to make a comment, and then I'll turn it over to the president for closing words on this subject. Certainly, I don't think there's any person on any side of the aisle that doesn't admit the United States immigration process is broken and needs a federal fix desperately. To that end, I think that this is a small step and a legal one that the Commonwealth can take to try to take folks from a legal status of residence to a legal status of employment and help them become on their journey as productive tax-paying members of our society. And I think it's a good thing. And hopefully, as you will expand the number of immigration lawyers, because ideally our federal government gets its hands around this problem, and at some point there's going to be a real demand for that specialty. Mr. President, last words are yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm sitting here, and he may not know that I'm getting ready to use him as an example, but Senator Matt Deneen is a perfect example of why we need to do this. Because there's the need for over 5,000 new employees at Glendale in his home county. This is a group of people who have come here through the process, and I know we have used the term parolee. It's not what you think when you generally think about a parolee. They've not been in jail. These are people who come here with a good reputation for work ethic and willing to participate. The problem here is we don't have the legal capacity, and it becomes a funnel and very narrow for them to be able to access this legal capacity to become work ready and naturalized. So in this, the Kentucky Bar Association, I've spoken with them, Louisville Bar Association are wanting to participate. This is something because now to graduate law schools, you have to have internships or externships, so this fits within their curriculum. The mayor's office is supportive of this because this is something that after these individuals who come here and get their appropriate status, then can be that workforce which Senator Nemes recognized to fill those jobs in the areas that we are desperate to fill. This is a one-time appropriation that, as Senator Frohmeyer talked about, it's there, and I saw her shake her head, that eventually you obviate the need for this program because you've trained and gotten the legal capacity in the system to take care of it. But it is something that right now, the dean and I were talking with this group, that come July 1, if we do this appropriation, they can be up and ready and start running on helping these individuals get on this path of being naturalized citizens, work-ready citizens, contributing tax-paying citizens, or immigrants here, providing us a 20,000 person workforce, which we so desperately need. And this is something, as I teased the dean a little bit, as I wear my U of L pin today, not UK, that she may be a little bit on the left, I may be a little bit on the right, but this is something we can celebrate, all of us, because this is something that is done in a process the correct way and using the tools we have in coming here legally, not through other methods that we know are broken. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very well. Thank you all today for the presentation, for your attendance. We certainly do appreciate it. Senator Nemes, Mr. President, thank you again. Seeing no other business to come in front of the committee, we'll stand adjourned.